integration time. This is just the agenda. So point 1 is already done. So we are now in the introduction phase. This will be very, very short. Just to frame a little bit the topic, we are going to talk about integration. So could we go to the next slide, please? So integration it is. Why is this a topic? Why is it important? Why are we doing a webinar about it? It's as simple as that. So everybody who is involved into development, no matter if it's RPA or it's traditional software development, understood during the last couple of years how challenging it is to bring value to customers quicker, so that it gets more and more demanding. And one important step in accelerating the value creation for customers is removing barriers between the different areas of the development cycle. So the importance is, if we look at testing and we look at development, RPA or software development, the question is, how can we seamlessly integrate those areas amongst each other, getting information to flow around and allow us to use information created in one tool in any other tool we like. So one approach is, of course, integration, and integration is something you can think of a tool like a testing tool. Frankly, a tool is only as good as its ability to integrate with other tools. In 2023, there is absolutely no option to run a siloed tool, which is a kind of a one-stop shop, sometimes as you call it, or whatever. So what we did at UiPath, we follow an approach of getting the best integration we can get. And this was a hard decision we made. We made a decision to not build it on our own. Yes, you're right. We have native integrations in Test Manager. We primarily built them to make a start and for our community users, but for our enterprise products, we decided to find a partner. And this, in that case, was Planview, also known as Tasktop, with their Hub product, which we ship along with Test Manager. So that's important information. You get Tasktop Hub as part of Test Manager. You don't even have additional fees on it. It just comes with the product, and it is the default integration solution for Test Manager. And at a certain point, the native integrations will be discontinued or only kept for certain scenarios like community, unlicensed view, and unlicensed use, and things like that. So, but I don't want to take too much time here, because we have the great Zoe Vickers with us from Planview, and she is absolutely best in explaining the ecosystem of Tasktop Hub and how integration works and how the approach is. Zoe, it's yours. Stage, take it away.
Thanks, Gernot. Well, hi, everyone. Just so you, again, kind of have an understanding of who we are. Yes, we are Planview, but for the last 15 years before this, we were a company called Tasktop, and we were the leading Agile and DevOps integration company in the industry. So we're very niche in what our integrations are, but with that, we do them very well. And so we do have a variety of partners which allow us pre-releases of software, being able to test against all these different tools that we, again, provide that integration to. And UiPath is, again, one of our strategic partners with this. So in terms of what is this offering that Gernot is talking about that is just included in your license, what it is it allows you to integrate Test Manager with 60 different tools. The reason, again, they decided to partner with us for this is because we provide 3 different styles of integration and an out-of-the-box, more point-and-click format, meaning that it's not going to be a heavy services engagement. It's not something that you're going to need a lot of assistance with. Once you understand the basics, you're able to scale and build these integrations to thousands of projects kind of as you go. So what are those tools? So over here on the right-hand side, they are alphabetized top to bottom. So if you want to look through that, Again, I think today Gearnot's going to be specifically talking about Test Manager and Jira, but some of the other most common ones we've been starting to see with Test Manager are going to be Azure DevOps. We're seeing ServiceNow, Micro Focus ALM, Octane that we've been seeing, TestRail, and even a little bit of JAMA as well. So again, all of this information is going to be available for you afterwards. So if you've missed this, we'll look at it again later. In terms of when we talk about integration, we have 3 different styles, we like to say. So when you think of integration, you probably think of the first step, which is just synchronization, bidirectional flow of information between tools. So we have things like requirements, test sets, test cases that are all going to synchronize seamlessly into another tool, sending information like statuses, owners, assignees, updates, descriptions. That's going to be probably the bulk of 90% of what we do. But we have 2 other styles of integration that are included in that license. And the first is called gateway. Think of this as a one-way push of information. So while we have those 60 connectors, as you can see, there's probably something on the list that's missing, meaning that you have another tool that your team is doing, maybe in the CI/CD pipeline type tools, and you want to still be able to take that information and send it into Test Manager. What Gateway does is it's a one-way push of information that says, okay, I can either find something that exists. So I'm going to find an artifact that already exists, like a requirement, and I'm going to modify it. So for example, maybe we're looking at a code commit. I'm going to modify a field on a requirement with a code commit from a tool like Git. Or I can create something new. So I can send a one-way push of information, again, from maybe a tool like Jenkins. Jenkins build fails. I want to automatically create a defect in Test Manager as well. Then that last style of integration is called Enterprise Data Stream. So like Gearnot said, we're not living in a world where you really should have a silo of tools where one tool does everything, which that also means that it's probably hard to report across your entire ecosystem. So what we've done is we've tried to make the job of your database team much easier by saying, hey, right now, a lot of teams are probably pulling data from a variety of tools. Typically, it's about 10 to 12 different tools on average that a team is using. But all that data is in a different format. So what we do is we will go through something in a minute called our model-based integration. What a model does essentially is it's going to normalize the data. So make all of your different tools. So Jira, UiPath Test Manager, Azure DevOps, ServiceNow, whatever it is, all that data is going to be reformatted into the same type of table and be sent into a database. So that way your teams can start much more easily building report in Tableau, Power BI dashboard, again, whatever systems you're using. So again, simple examples of how these styles of integration work. Imagine you have a requirement and a bug in Test Manager. That first style of integration called synchronization, think of it bidirectional, epics, defects flowing over into Jira. Second style of integration, again, is that one-way push. So imagine we can do one thing first. We can modify a field on a requirement from something like a commit message in a tool like GitLab. So again, something we don't have a connector for, but we can connect to via an inbound webhook. Or we can create something new. So something like maybe a Selenium automated test run fails. That failed test run can create a bug over in Test Manager. Then that last style of integration says, let's report across all these tools, create common dashboards. Let's figure out where a bug originated. Let's figure out where it sits in each tool. When is it actually pushed out to production? And we can, again, do all of that through Enterprise Data Stream. So then what I was talking about a moment ago, when it comes to integration, why are we different? Why did UiPath decide to partner with us? So the idea here is that there truly is no one tool or product suite that can support the specialized work that happens across all of your different teams. And so when we do this, we have to realize that integration is going to play a specific role in tying together the tools and making them really work like a well-oiled machine. So to do that, we need a specific tool to help us actually flow all that data across the ecosystem. So what that often means is that we know we need integration. The benefits are talked about all the time. We know that integration is needed to eliminate overhead and duplicate data entry. I work with customers who a lot of times on Friday afternoon, they have people coming in and exporting information and manually putting it into another tool over the weekend so the teams can start working again on Monday. So we know integration is going to help accelerate that speed to delivery, enhance cross-team collaboration, provide the visibility and traceability across tools, having backlinks from one tool to another to know exactly where it sits. That being said, despite those benefits that most people understand, a lot of people don't know where to begin. Now, they typically are going to look at a few different options for where they want to start. The main place people start is they look for point-to-point integration. They're looking for a plugin, something simple. But the idea here is that a point-to-point integration often, because it can't really actually manage that scale and complexity of a large-scale organization. First off, it may not actually provide all the fields that you need. It may not provide all the customization that you need. And also the average company needs to be able to flow hundreds or thousands of projects or across 5 different tools with 40 plus artifacts. And so we need something like a model to actually be able to maintain that integration. So what this means, and again, this is just going to be an example, is that you kind of have to decide at what point do you use an integration tool like we have, or do you build it yourself? So if you're building it yourself, you have to make a lot of decisions. What fields are we going to map? And do we map a summary to description or to a name, severity to comments? And then we have to start figuring out, okay, I'm mapping a severity field. We're mapping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in one tool to critical, high, medium, and low. Is it a one-to-one mapping? Is it a multiple mapping? And the idea here is that maybe you have a status field in a defect management tool. So this is ready for test. And then in a test management tool that's going to set that status to new. The idea here is this is going to take a lot of time to determine. And so therefore, when you start trying to determine how many hours this can take for a single pair of artifacts, this could take something like 3 hours. But then as you start integrating across multiple repositories, it could take more than 200 hours just to start building a basic integration. So again, this is where model-based integration comes in. A good analogy is we think about how we are going to be able to translate languages. So say we're just integrating 2 tools, just Jira to Test Manager. Great. We have French to Spanish. There's only 1 translation count. Once you start getting 3 tools, though, you start realizing it doesn't just bring it up by 1. It's not just 2 translations. It's multiple. Again, we start getting to 6 languages. You realize that's 15 different integrations or different translation counts that might need. So I think, again, we think 200 hours times 15. That's a lot of work. What a model does, it's going to resolve all of this point-to-point disconnects and create a sustainable model. So instead of everyone having to know each and every single language, they're able to commonly point to one common denominator to easily be able to scale and talk to any of the other people there. So ultimately, what a model does, it acts as that universal translator to convert and normalize data as it flows between systems. So at any point, once you've built, for example, a requirement integration with Test Manager, we're going to easily be able to scale that. And you might map to Jira first, but you can reuse anything that you've already built with Test Manager and now easily map it to another tool like JAMA or IBM or version 1 or Rally or whatever it might be. So again, a good visual of how this works is imagine we have the model in the center. So this is Planview Hub. This is ultimately what Gearnot's calling Test Manager Connect. Again, it's included in your license. So this is here for you to use. What we're able to do is we're mapping a tool such as Jira to this model that sits in the center. So all of the different fields, all the different values. And from there, that model is going to then point over to Test Manager. And again, it acts as that funnel or the filter point to determine exactly where you want to go. Now, right before I hand it off to Gearnot, I just want to bring up an example slide of what a lot of customers are wanting to set up in this tool. So again, today we're focusing on the Jira Test Manager integration, but again, please ask any questions not related to this integration. But some of the most common integrations we see is, again, we're focusing on that requirement and defect, and then Test Manager is where you want that majority of your testing to be done. But if, again, you're wanting that point of visibility, you can see here that we are able to integrate across both tools seamlessly. So instead of hearing a lot more mumbo jumbo about this, I'm going to hand it off to Gearnot, and he is going to actually walk through a demo and show you how this all works.
Awesome. Thanks, Zoe. Let me share my screen. I want to, oops, that's not working like, okay. So let's jump into the demo. It is quite ambitious, so we have to be really quick. So listen carefully. I will be very quick going through that. A few things about conceptual view, and it focused on test manager. Basically, the most common patterns we find how test manager is integrated with external tools is the following. One is, we call this the ALM pattern. Basically, this is our favorite one, or one of our favorite ones. It's for customers who are using Test Manager for all the test management, basically. But as I explained in the beginning, a Test Manager is just a test management tool, and Test Suite is a testing tool. We don't try to be best in class or best in industry in Agile planning or requirements management or whatever. We don't understand in all the details how you do your Agile planning or your requirements management. Yeah, we think best is to use the best tools you can get on the market, and one of this is, for instance, Jira. So an external tool for Agile planning. How does this integrate with Test Manager? Also, defect management applies the same. Defect management is an art or a science by its own. So whatever you think is right, maybe it's somewhere in between art and science, but it's a complex topic. Yeah, we don't want to compete with the market leaders in that space. So we stay out of that as a test tool vendor and focus on the ability to integrate with the best tools. And I will show you that in a second. So the next pattern is the one, I'm somehow, I like it and I don't like it a lot. This is when people use external systems for all test management, defect management, Agile planning, requirements management, or whatever. And they use UiPath Test Suite just for the purpose of automation. This is okay because every testing organization which starts adopting a new tool has a history in testing, and it might be a very risky and tedious task to try to switch in one click from one solution to the other. So to do it gradually, just replace the automation first or replace manual testing by automation, and then start shifting the test automation also to Test Manager. We allow that, and this is a perfect fit for Test Manager Connect also. So this is quite okay. You can do that. It's not part of the demo today because it would be too long. It's a little bit more complex. I will show you this first pattern. One last important thing before I jump into the demo. There are variations of those patterns. Yeah, you might have bidirectional sync, for instance. Here, you might want to manage your automated testing and manual testing in Test Manager, but run the automated the manual tests in an external tool like X-Ray because your manual testers are used to that testing tool. That's perfectly fine. You can do that. There are some limitations sometimes. The perfect integration where you don't have to do any transformation or whatever is just between identical tools. So you always have to deal with this translation bit of information. But we will see that in the demo as well. So let me jump right into the demo. So now the real fun starts. I have a very ambitious goal. I want to show something which takes some time. So that's why I'm going to be quick. So what's the topic here? We have Test Manager. This is Test Manager. This is the platform of UiPath. I guess everybody knows that quite well. I jump right into a Test Manager project. So this is where I can do test management, manage all the automation and the manual testing and all that stuff. We want to integrate that with Jira. This is the cloud instance of Jira. This is a project I created up front in Jira. So what we are going to do in this demo is we want to show how we create a user story in Jira. We will show how this user story gets synchronized to Test Manager. In Test Manager, we will assign a test to this user story, and we will assign an automation from Studio to this test, and we run an automated test set. And digging through the results, we find a failed test case, and based on this failed test case, we will create a defect in Jira again, which is properly linked to the originating user story we did in the beginning. Okay, so let's get into it. I start my timer so I don't run out of time, and let's just go. So here we are. Let's start with taking a look at the Planview Desktop Hub or Test Manager Connect. So first of all, so I was explaining the concept of models. Let's take a brief look at the models. So the product comes with a set, a relatively comprehensive set of well set up models already. So first of all, we want to talk about the requirement model. So the requirement model has a set of fields already defined. It's really very, very easy. It comes with an intelligent set of predefined fields. So I can add a field here and just say, okay, this is a due date, or this is a commit message, or whatever. I can really fairly quickly set that up. A few things I want to point your attention to is things like priority, for instance. That's a field which is a select list. So you can populate that field from a list of predefined values. You can check that box if you want to allow any value. Just make this put this into a pre-selectable list. So you find all sorts of fields. So this is for requirement, a severity, a priority, a status. A status very important on requirements. You want to understand that. You can also set relations to other objects. So it's almost like an entity relationship model you can model here. So this model is agnostic, like Zoe explained. It's not specific to any of the integrated systems. Let me, here we go. So let's get to the next topic in Hub. So in order to translate the objects from the particular systems into those models, we have to define so-called collections. So collections are that part that just defines how an object that is defined in a particular system like Jira or Test Manager is translated into the model and stored on the Desktop Hub server in the format of the agnostic model. So I have quite some here. Let's go to the one with the requirement from Test Manager. Oh no, let's take that one. So a user story in Jira translated to the model. So this we find in this collection. I just give you a brief overlook. You can use it for several projects. By the way, you should add them here so Desktop Hub can understand how they are configured in the particular systems. Yeah, but the important piece is the map fields here. Yeah, here you can define how the values are transformed, and this is quite some complex thing, but it's very easy to do it here. So you get an intelligent mapping out of the box. So it tries to map by name already. For instance, take a look at the summary here. Yeah, in the model you have a summary field, and you have a summary field also in the Jira in Jira defined. So you want to take whatever is in the summary of the model and synchronize it to a Jira user story, and also the other way around. Yeah. So if you define something in Jira, you want to have it synchronized to the model. Why is it so tricky? All those tools use different markup languages. For Test Manager, for instance, uses Markdown, while Jira has some kind of textile proprietary style of defining markup. And this is one thing that Desktop Hub does very, very well, translating all those markups so you don't lose your formatting when you synchronize between tools. So we have a summary, we have a description, we have a priority. This is something which is very tricky, by the way, because the priority needs some mapping. So you might have different values for priorities on the different systems, and you can just connect them here by dragging and dropping them. So this is a bit tricky sometimes. You can also say when there is no priority set, On the Jira side, you will set it to medium by default on the model. So this is one thing I always do. And you can also say, okay, several values from the model are translated to highest. For instance, some tools are more granular, some are less. You have to be careful with that because this makes it unidirectional under certain circumstances, because you know then how to translate in one direction, but you get into troubles in the other directions, but you can handle all of that. Yeah. This is quite cool. So this is something I cannot get into detail here. You have person reconciliation, so you can resolve usernames and stuff like that. So there are variations of this simplistic approach versus a very complex approach also. So this is something you can configure here. This is the mapping between Jira and the model. Let's take a look at the other side, the requirements to the story model on the server. So the label here is, by the way, wrong. I just noticed. It's the requirement model. It's not the story model, right? Oh, no, it's the story model. So here you get the same thing, basically. You have a name in terms of stories or requirements in Test Manager. It's more simplistic. It's not a specialized requirements management tool. So you have a name and you have a description, and that's it. And the priority, this is an example where we hard-coded, set it always to medium on the model, because the Test Manager doesn't have, at the moment at least, a priority on the model, on the requirements object. So these are two sides of the integration. Very easy to set up. So it's really easy to learn also. Let's take a brief look at the other side. So the defects we want to synchronize at the end of the demo. The defects are a little bit more tricky because there is one thing we want to understand. Test Manager doesn't have a defect management module. It just has the ability to display a link to a defect in Jira, for instance, and it can set a label for this link. But we want to have a little bit of information about the detail about this defect. So let's take a look how we do that. Let's take a look at just at the collection for how we push defects to Jira. So here are the mappings, and what I wanted to show you is that there is something. Let's take a look. So I'm wrong. Let's take a look first at the defect model here. It's this one. So on the model side, we have something which should be the link label. The link label is a field in Test Manager, and we translate it to something which is very tricky. Let's configure it here. We want the link label to be formatted as text. So we show the key from Jira. This is the formatted ID. This is the usual key in Jira you have with the prefix and the number. And we will want to display the status. So we want to understand if this issue is resolved or if it's still in to do or whatever. So you can enter anything you want here and create a longer label with more information. For instance, add the priority here or things like that. So a lot of tricky stuff you can do. You can even script a little bit around doing transformations here if something doesn't come out of the box, but there is a lot coming out of the box. So we have a link which is important to that issue, and this is the collection for the defect then. So let's jump right into it, and let's start by creating a requirement in Jira, and let's see how this flows. First of all, we have to jump to the integrations here. So if you have defined your collections, you have defined how the objects from the particular tools translates into the model. On the integrations page, you define actually how which system to connect to which one. It's not so much about which instance of Jira you use or whatever. It's more the projects in Jira and the projects in Test Manager to connect to each other. The instances are defined in the repositories here. This is some kind of an outer concept here. So the integrations tells me I have two here. They are not running at the moment. Jira to the Jira story to the test manager requirement. So this is one thing. Let's take a look and let's just take a look how this works. So we have two collections. So the left side is the collection for the stories in Jira, and the right-hand side is the collection for stories in Test Manager. So in the middle is the model, so you can imagine it like that. First thing I want to do here is I want to set the artifact routing. The artifact routing just tells me, is this basically a bidirectional or is a unidirectional sync? So for user stories and requirements, there is no issue in having that bidirectional. So we synchronize creation and updates in both directions. We could remove here just one direction. That's perfectly fine. That's not an issue. Very easy to do and not a lot to say about that. The other thing is the artifact creation flow. Oh, sorry, I explained it wrong. So this is the artifact creation flow. We have the two-way creation. So two-way creation, the creation is separated here. Whenever you create a user story or some, in that case, it's just a user story in Jira, you will see it showing up in the UiPath Test Manager as well. The artifact routing is something different. The artifact routing tells you which projects in the particular tools to connect to each other. So we have a demo project Ganot on Jira, and I have a Ganot UiBank demo 23.4 on Test Manager. So it's this one, and it's basically this project here in demo project Ganot here in Jira. So sorry for the confusion. So this is how we think about integrations. And let's see how it works. So basically, let's start at integration. And synchronization starts in that moment. And let's get the demo going and create a user story here. So let's start with the story. So we create a story. So we all do our demos around this UI bank, this virtual bank. So I need to cheat a little bit with my text editor. So I have a story. And I have some acceptance criteria in the description in that story. Let's edit here. I do some basic formatting also, so you can see how this looks like. So we have a story here. Let's just do a little bit, make it at least bold, the description bold. We have a bullet list and some heading here. Let's save that. So in the background, our integration is already running. You can see here, and let's see how this shows up in Test Manager. It takes a moment, so usually you set the sync interval to something like 1-2 minutes or so. But I wanted to just demo that very quickly. So this is the new object. This is the requirement we just created in Jira. And what I just said is it's very nice that you see all the formatting. It's translated into this markdown like we did. So quite nicely. Let's jump to the test cases. So we want to create a test case for that. So we create a test case in Test Manager. So I will not add a lot of details here, but one thing I will do, which is quite important, I will assign it to the create checking account requirement. That's what we just did created just a moment before. The most important thing is I want to assign automation to this test case in Test Manager. For that purpose, I open UiPath Studio, our automation tool. Click on the Test Manager icon. So for some reason it could not connect. So that's the demo effect. It would be quite a pity. Okay. Oh, I think I know what's happening. No, I don't know. Okay, so here we go. This only happens during demos. Default tenant, that looks good. So here we go, that looks better. So this was spontaneous healing. I have no idea how I fixed that. So let's select the test case we just created. The create checking account, the number 40. Let's just connect it. And when you take a look here at the automation tab for this test case, I need to refresh that. You will see that it has been properly connected. So one thing I also do here on the overview tab is I create a label. Smoke test, this is just convenience. I have set up a test set which includes automatically all the test cases that have the label smoke test set on it. So that's the dynamic assignment, and you see the new test case that's already in there. That just helps me so I don't need to open the test set to add the test case. So anyway, let's execute that and see what it does. So this is just some automation. It opens the UI bank. So I guess you know that game. So it logs in, creates a checking account number 500 after all the demos over the years. And still the second one, that's the create savings account. That's all part of the smoke test. They got a start balance of $100 here. Unfortunately, only virtual money. So here you see that's the results coming in here. Still one result pending. Takes some seconds for test for the. So here we go. So this is our test case we created just before, and it has a failed result. I made it fail, so I made the validation in a way that it fails. So what we want to do is we want to dig into here and understand all the things. We have some attachments. The one is I just added an attachment here, not so important. We see which requirements are affected. Anyway, we have some robot logs, which might tell us some things, but we want to create a defect in Jira where we put together all the information we have here in this result. And link it to Jira. So for that purpose, we have to start our defect sync. That's the integration. Again, we have two collections. One is the collection model to Jira. The other side is model to Test Manager. And so we can create a defect in Test Manager and create it in Jira. Notice that arrow here, that arrow points only to the right. It's not possible for Jira to create defects currently in Test Manager because Test Manager is not a test management tool. So that's why at the moment we don't allow that. We might change that in the future. So let's start that integration and let's try to do the magic. So wish me luck, create defect. So I promise one thing at that point, soonish somehow, we will have push refreshes in Test Manager. So it takes a couple of seconds to create that defect. So that's why it's saying defect is being created. So we can take a look here and take a look at the all issues. So if you want to, if you're not sure if it's really syncing, yeah, you can always take a look at the activity here. Here is the magic, and here it says nothing is pending, so it's probably already processed. If not, I can show you where to look next. I guess we need to look next at our Jira repository and see how we set the polling interval. It's set to 10 seconds. So I am not so sure if oh, here we go. Just took a couple of seconds. So create checking account. This is the issue we created. Let's open it and see what's in here. So we have all the robot logs in here. We have a link to Test Manager. The robot logs are usually used by developers, so they want to understand what was actually happening when this failed. And here you can see I added some stuff to make it fail because we validate against the success message here. And the most important thing here is it's linked to the original user story we created. What I'm missing here, but what I just did not set up is you can also add the attachments. Anyway, that's it for the demo. I think it's time to start the Q&A, so you might have some questions. And if so, just go ahead.
Yes, you can just unmute yourself and ask the question. If you are shy, you can still continue on chat. That's fine as well. Amit, are you there? I see that you had a question. Okay, I think Amit popped off. Anyways, anyone else?
Hi, Gernot. Thanks for the demo. I would like to understand the first page. So I am aware of the test manager that you have showed, and I am quite new to the a page where you have tried, yeah, this one. So how did this come up, or probably how is this page retrieved from the actual orchestrator or the test manager? So from where did you get this page? So just the navigation point.
This is the product from Planview. So this is a separate instance. You can install it as a service. It's technically not included in the UiPath platform. It's a separate service. You can get it on cloud as a SaaS operated by Planview, or you can install it on your own premises.
All right, great, thanks.
Okay. Other questions? Hi,
Gernot. Thanks for the demo. And I would like to know here in the models you have shown the relationships, right? So what type of the fields we use to map with this particular relationship type? I mean in the test manager, what type of the components we usually to map with this particular Jira?
Sorry, I didn't understand the last thing you said, the very last thing.
I mean, like, what are the components such as like if you have a TM ID or TM URL, what type of the fields we usually map with the Jira components, such as like that relationship type, especially.
So the relationship type. So there are different relationships on the test manager. So you can look that up, by the way, relatively easily. Just open a test manager collection. So this is the collection for type requirement, for instance. Yeah. And if you open that and just open the drop down here, you see all the relations and the fields and that can be synchronized. So for instance, for a requirement, you can synchronize a relationship to all the test cases. Yeah. You have the ID, you have related defects, for instance, also on the requirement. This is an important relation because it's an indirect relationship. It goes via the test case in Test Manager, yeah? You know, so these are the available fields. So the symbols all have a meaning. This is a required field. It can't be left empty, for instance, and things like that. So you have a person, you have a rich text. So does this answer your question? You can do the same for other object types as well. Just open a collection. By the way, I think we have some documentation also around that. Yep.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Other questions? Don't be shy. Ask your questions. I'm happy to answer. So while you make, yeah.
Maybe you're so clear that everyone understood everything you were saying.
So maybe I add some additional information since we have some time. So you see here quite some collections I use to play around or to do demos or whatever. Yeah. So the most common ones is Azure DevOps, which is very well integrated. The integration with the Azure DevOps test plans are very challenging. So this is something which is not so easy, but we are able to integrate with that. But there is a constant improvement here. One thing I want to say, the most common integration is with X-Ray. Currently, and X-Ray will receive a huge update in terms of aspects we can synchronize. Those upgrades are in the area of pushing test results to X-Ray, because a lot of people have standardized on X-Ray for reporting their testing and all that stuff. So with an upcoming update in early autumn, October, November timeframe, maybe, we will be able to synchronize a lot more aspects to X-Ray as well, which is really exciting. So I've never seen such a nice and detailed integration to X-Ray so far. So that's good news. Fiddling around a little bit with it, you will find out. To give you an idea, what's the effort in adopting it? Yeah, this is a common question. So if you're in the situation, you want to find out if this is a useful thing for you, just go ahead. Yeah, you will find out easily how to set up a simple integration. The one thing I want to add here is if you want to bring that to a production grade detail level, reserve some time. Yeah, this can be very tricky, and this can be more something where you have to do a lot of documentation internally with your organizations, how they want, for instance, defects to be translated into defects on the model. So this takes some time, but it has a very flat learning curve. So you will be able to learn that really in almost no amount of time. We have great trainings. If you are in the context of an existing customer, you can do trainings, but I'm sure there are other training options and self-paced stuff. Maybe so we can talk a little bit about that. So if you want to learn it, don't be shy and go for it. It's a lot of fun, by the way. So you want to add something?
No, I was just hoping someone could mute and ask questions if there are any.
Something in the chat I can answer.
No, nothing.
No. Okay, so then I guess that's it for today. So you have something you want to share, something important?
Nothing too big today. I think you covered a good portion of it, but everyone feel free, please reach out. Gearnaut's a great resource. anything that they need to pull in. Some of us at Planview who are experts in it, feel free, reach out. We'll easily hop on calls with you, help configure, walk through some different use cases, brainstorm. So thanks for having us today.
Awesome. I've also shared the profiles of Gernot and Zoe and myself on the chat. So please feel free to reach out. Also, if you feel that there are some topics which you would like to be covered in the community, we would certainly like to set that up. So please be vocal about it so that we also know what is really needed for you. So perfect. So this recording, as I mentioned earlier, will be available on the same link where you registered for the session. So it will be live in next 24 hours. So please do share it with your colleagues, your peers, your teammates, whoever would get value from this. This will be live on YouTube channel as well. So thank you all for joining. Thank you so much, Zoe and Gernot, for your time. And I'm sure we'll connect more for more topics.